Hi everyone, it's Leah, and I'm here today with a different kind of video for you. I am sharing one of our family's absolutely most favorite recipes for soup. Okay, it's from the book Millennium or Millennium by fellow Canadian Noreen Gillette's, or maybe Gillett's, I'm not sure, but I think it's Gillette's. Doesn't really matter. Well, it matters to her, of course. Um, gosh. And the recipe is called, let me get that in there, Luscious Lentil Soup. You can see this is very well marked up. I write a lot of notes, and the book, of course, is like absolutely falling apart. That just shows you how well loved and used it is. It is more like a kosher cookbook, but all of the recipes in there can be made by anyone. The only thing you won't find in there, of course, are recipes where you're going to have meat and milk mixed in the recipe at the same time. No seafood recipes, plenty of fish recipes, but not seafood, and no pork recipes. But other than that, it's filled with yummy things. Everything from appetizers, soups, main courses, poultry, even desserts and breads. So I really love it. It's a fab cookbook. The recipe is delish, and I'm going to, in the next clip, start sharing with you the ingredients to the soup, and then after that, I'm going to come back and I'm going to share with you the nutritional information so that you can decide if this is something you yourself want to try. It is a vegan recipe. You can always adapt it if you want, and okay, let's take it from there. Bye. All right, let me get back to what the ingredients are. Okay, it's one large chopped onion. I had them covered up because, hey, I don't want to cry. So it's one large chopped onion. It's 4 cloves of garlic. Usually I use fresh, but I'm out of fresh today, so I'm making do with dried garlic. So that means I'm substituting 1 teaspoon per clove. So it's 4 teaspoons of garlic powder in here. Usually this is then sauteed in oil. I don't use oil, so I will water saute the onion, sprinkle the garlic on top, and that's fine. Then you add 1 cup of lentils, brown or red, the Dupuy or the red lentils, whichever you prefer. These are washed and rinsed, picked over first, of course. And one thing I can say that if either you or anyone in your family finds it really hard to digest, let's say lentils even, rinse it again and again and again and again until you see the water run clear. That means you're removing a lot of starch from it, and it will be much more digestible. Okay, so hopefully that helps somebody out. The next is 1 stalk of celery chopped up, and after that we've got 1 can, let me give you the English side, of diced tomatoes. This is a 28-ounce size. I usually use the one without salt. They didn't have it, so I bought the one with salt. And that means that I just simply cut back on the amount of salt that I actually put into the soup. Okay? You're going to need 5 cups of water. You're going to need a bay leaf. Where do we have that? Here we go. We're going to need a 3/4 teaspoon of salt. I use the pink Himalayan, which I typically grind right before I use it. And then you're going to need a 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. Again, I grind that and measure that out, but you can use just straight ground pepper too, why not? Then it's going to require a 1 teaspoon of dried basil. I like using fresh. I still haven't finished chopping it. This I grow on the balcony outside in a little flower pot, and it's called boxwood basil. If you notice, the leaves are smaller than your standard basil, and I find it really gives a sweet taste, and they're really beautiful to look at. And okay, after the basil, you add the juice of 1/2 lemon, which is about 1.5 tablespoons about of lemon juice. And then at the end for garnish, you can add some fresh chopped parsley. I haven't chopped it up yet, but that's it. I'm going to show you, once I've got it cooking up on the stove, what it looks like. Got to tell you, your kitchen is going to smell wonderful, and it freezes really nicely too. I usually put it in a glass mason jar with a plastic lid. Just leave about like an inch and a half at the top for expansion. When you freeze it, it defrosts beautifully, reheats. It's fabulous. And I'll also, when I'm showing you what it's boiling up like, I'll read to you what the nutrition panel says, so you have an idea of like the calories, the carbs, the protein, etc. Okay, back with you soon. Okay, so here we have it. I've got it starting to boil slowly, And the directions are you bring it to a rapid boil, and after you've done that with lentil soup, you're going to turn it down to something lower, let it simmer for about an hour to make sure the lentils are nice and soft. If you want, you can skim off any of the remaining starch at the top from your lentils that you didn't catch while you were rinsing it, or just let it be. And one thing you want to know is that it does taste better if you let it sit and reheat it the next day. The flavors just blend. It's really awesome. And it does get a little thicker though when you let it do that. So if you're not serving it right away and or you're freezing it and you're going to reheat it later, then you may just want to thin it with a little bit of water to whatever thickness it is that you happen to prefer. Okay, so I'm going to come back to you in a moment and tell you all about the nutritional panel. Okay, so here's the nutritional info for the Luscious Lentil Soup. The recipe quantities that I mentioned before are for 8 to 10 servings. You should know that this recipe doubles, and if you've got a big enough pot and a large enough element on your stove or range, can easily triple or quadruple, and freezes beautifully, I think, as I mentioned earlier. So the quantities I shared for you, that's the smallest batch generally you can make. It's 8 to 10 servings. It's 120 calories per serving, 2.1 grams of fat, 7 grams of protein, 20 grams of carbs, and 13 grams net carbs because it's got 7 grams of fiber. Okay, it's also high in calcium and potassium, and it's got a bit of iron in it as well too. One thing I did notice is that if you were to replace the red lentils with the more traditional brown or green, whatever you happen to call them, Dupuis lentils, you will save on the carbs, because I looked it up, God bless Google, and half a cup of cooked red lentils is 21 net carbs, whereas a half a cup of cooked green or brown lentils is only 14 net carbs. So that may be something I'm going to play with in the future, actually. Try it replacing the red lentils in the recipe and try the green or brown instead, so I can save a few of the carbs over there. Okay, one other thing I wanted to mention is that when you cook up a large pot, obviously it's really hot. Many of you know this already. Don't put hot soup into storage containers, particularly if they're plastic, and straight into the fridge, because some of the plastic, whatever it's made of, the petroleum byproducts will then leach into your food. So it's always best to leave it to cool down. Because this soup, particularly as I make it, because I don't brown the onion or the garlic in oil, I just water saute it. It's got no meat in it whatsoever. It's 100% vegan, particularly when you leave out the oil. And it's all oil vegan. Okay. And you can easily leave it out on your stovetop, on your counter, on a trivet, wherever you want to cool for several hours, and you don't have to worry about it having any bacterial growth during that time. Once it's cool, you can transfer it to your storage containers for either your fridge or your freezer. Okay, so unless you're living somewhere really hot, like our buddy Jace Jacobs of Jace Jacobs Jar of Poetry, who lives in Arizona, in the summertime, where I'm sure the numbers go into the triple digits Fahrenheit, anywhere else you're pretty safe, okay, to leave it out and not have to worry about it. So there you have it. It's a really delicious recipe, even when our boys were younger, because they're young men now at 17 and 19, but when they were little they loved it. All of our guests have always enjoyed it, and it's quick and easy to make, very nutritious, and it smells so delish in the house. So I really do hope you give it a try. If you do, I'd love to hear your comments on it or suggestions for any improvements, or maybe how you like to prep it and serve it. So let me know, okay? And I hope you've enjoyed this recipe video. I will try it again. I will work on my camera angles as I get more familiar with how to use my tripod to film these things. And if you've liked this video, I will try to making more of them. So any feedback would be helpful. If there's something that I should be doing differently, I am open to criticism. Criticism, when we examine the actual definition of the word, is actually a good thing. It means to critique something, to offer suggestions on where one can improve, to say what went well, what didn't. It doesn't have to be a negative. And I've spent a lot of years in my life working on seeing it more positively, and I really would like to hear from you if you've got suggestions on how I can do things differently. I want to make these videos much more fun and enjoyable for you. I want to experiment with having fun making them, and that's it. Okay, so, oh, because I mentioned Jace, many of you I know are already following him. Just in case there's somebody new here who isn't just yet, I will leave his link down below in the description box, and you definitely want to check him out, because each and every time I watch his videos, I leave feeling happier, more positive, more motivated. He really lifts up my spirit and my heart, and he does that, I think, for everybody who watches him. Just take a look at the comments if you visit one of his videos. He's a super uber positive guy, a real sweetheart, and he will definitely be well worth your visit. Okay, bye for now.